Hello and welcome to WPFW's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections, where you will hear from various listener candidates. My name is Yilin Zhang, a trustee with the League of Women Voters in the District of Columbia, and the moderator of today's program. The topics to be discussed cover key topics facing WPFW and the Pacifica Foundation as a whole, and questions submitted directly by WPFW members. Please note that all viewpoints presented are those of the participants and do not reflect the position of the Pacifica Foundation or WPFW. The program starts with opening statements, followed by a debate covering topics selected from a predefined topic list, and ending with questions from listener members. The order of candidates and topics has been selected by using a random sequence generator from random.org. This hour, we are joined by Arthur Hyland, Ayana Craig Maxx Myrick, Minerva Sanders, Luke Reynolds, and Sarah E. Brown. Welcome. Before starting the debate, each candidate has 1 minute to make an opening statement. Candidates will hear a bell when they have 15 seconds left and 2 bells when the time is up. So let's get started with the candidates' opening statements. And Arthur Hyland, you have 1 minute to begin your opening statement.
Thank you. So my name is Arthur Hyland. I'm a longtime listener and supporter of WPFW. Public radio is important and local voices need to be heard, uninterrupted and uninfluenced. The music is more paramount to me, and I sincerely appreciate the expertise of each of the volunteer DJs and what they bring to their programs. I've been asking myself this question: what can I do to really help as far as serving on the board? And I think mostly my qualifications as a fundraiser might come into play. 40 years in development, mostly in the DC area, hospitals, National Gallery of Art, and finishing up at the GW School of Medicine. So raised lots of money in various areas. I think I can lend a bit of expertise to you all and help out in any other way I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Art. Next up, we have Ayana Craig. Ayana, you have 1 minute.
Yes, hi, thank you. My name is Ayana Craig. I've been a supporter of WPFW for about 4 years. I found out about WPFW through a climate podcast that I listened to called Think 100%, which is based out of Washington, DC. I don't have much board experience, but what I think I can bring to the table is I'm a great absorber of information. I'm a quick learner, and I'm also a climate and justice activist. So I have a few connections that might be able to help with some of the problems that WPFW and Pacifica are having. And I'm just here to learn.
Thank you very much, Ayana. Next up, we have Maxx Myrick. Max, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. My name is Maxx Myrick. I am a fan of WPFW. It's the first station that I ever heard when I moved out here from Chicago in 2000, 21 years ago. I am a broadcaster myself. I have 44 years of experience building radio stations, managing radio stations, turning radio stations around, improving them across the country in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, worked here in Washington, DC, XM Satellite Radio. So I think I can bring some of that experience to bear in support of WPFW. And that's about it.
Thank you very much, Max. Next up, we have Minerva Sanders. Minerva, you have 1 minute. Minerva, if you could please unmute. There you
All
go.
right, I'm muted now. Okay, starting again. Good afternoon, I'm Minerva Sanders, and I'm wanting to become a member of the local station board for WPFW because I, over the years, also have listened to the station. I participated in the fund drives. I've even volunteered at the station to assist in taking calls. I believe that WPFW is a station that my main statement is, it's the best kept secret in DC. I feel that with my background from having served Board of United Way in the DMV, also Prince George's County, worked with the Council of PTAs, having done things within my community and throughout other jobs that I've had in my life, that I can bring a lot to the station. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minerva. Next up, we have Luke Reynolds. Luke, you have 1 minute.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I'm like everybody here. I'm a fan of WPFW. I've been a resident of DC and a fan of the station since 2015. Have some experience with finance and budgeting and communications. And I guess given as much as I've enjoyed the radio station, I really haven't given as much as I should in terms of volunteer or financially. So saw this as an opportunity to do so. So would appreciate the chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. And to wrap up our opening statements, we next have Sarah E. Brown. Sarah, you have 1 minute.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Brown, and I've been a longtime listener. I'm an FCC licensed person, so I have a lot to contribute there. And I'm a candidate for the WPFW Board of Directors. I have 3 priorities that I'm interested in. One is to increase listenership and membership. 2 is to stay true to our school. In other words, never forget our original purpose and intention. And 3, to foster a humble and egalitarian philosophy as servants to our lowest of our listenership. If an organization is to exist, it must grow, and otherwise it's dying. And right now, we need to make sure that we're going to grow and prosper because WPFW is too important to let go.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We now move on to the debate. Okay, the debate format consists of assigning one topic to one candidate as determined by the initial random sequence, and allowing that candidate 2 minutes to develop their answer. All other candidates following the order defined by that initial random sequence will get 30 seconds each to comment or ask a follow-up question. The initial candidate then can have 2 additional minutes to provide comments or respond to these questions. This structure iterates through all candidates until all have had the opportunity to address a topic in depth. And before we move on, let me just clarify, will we have candidates respond at the end with the 2 additional minutes? And Steve, you may have the answer to that question.
Yilin, I think just the 2 minutes at the beginning for the candidate whose topic it is, and then everybody gets their 30 seconds to add their thoughts, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Great. All right. So I apologize. So 2 minutes initially for whoever has the assigned topic, and then we'll go to the remaining candidates for 30 seconds of comments and or questions. So for the first topic, we have Art. Art, you have the first topic, and I will read it off, and you will then have 2 minutes to respond. What areas of the national policy do you think are most in need of development? And what do you believe would be the respective appropriate roles of the local station board and its appointees to the national board to work with the executive director toward defining and implementing those policies? Art, you have 2 minutes.
Well, you would have to start with one of the hardest questions, I think, that was on the list. of questions. And honestly, it is a difficult question for me to answer. A lot of it relates to my unfamiliarity with the issues, or at least all of them, as far as in a concrete way. But based upon the flurry of emails I've seen this summer from New Pacifica and WPFW, it seems like this relationship between the parent org and the stations has some issues. Issues like crushing debt, who's in charge of the local programming, selling off stations, corporate takeovers of programming and station function, et cetera. Pacifica is a centralized and decentralized operation. And in my experience, the mothership is always at odds with the satellite organizations. So it's not quite unexpected and something I have seen in the past. Honestly, I think Pacifica needs to increase its voice at the local level. It started something way back in 1946, and this something continues to thrive. It's surviving. I think it can certainly use some help to grow it and make it much more viable in this day and age. It should be proud of what they accomplish every day, and WPFW should do its part to celebrate the relationship with Pacifica, but also work to help better define and state what it is. And what does it want to be? What does it want to go to moving forward? The listener station board should encourage more clarity with the parent organization and what it wants to accomplish. Development seems to be a national priority, not only again at Pacifica, but at all the sister stations. So how can Pacifica work to restructure its debt and gain better access and better footing, increase market share, and how can the LSB play a part in that? Questions I really can't answer right now, but I'm happy to help and willing to learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Art. And next we have Ayana. You have 30 seconds for any comments.
Thank you. I couldn't have said that better myself, Art. I totally agree with what you're saying. I myself would like to see more fundraising efforts from the local station, WPFW, and just start from the local level and then go more national. But we need to focus on our home bases first.
Thank you, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 30 seconds for comments.
Okay, thank you. I don't really know what the relationship between the national and local is, but if the station is going to grow, it has to be hyper local. And so I agree with what everyone has said so far. That focus needs to be there.
Great. Thank you, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 30 seconds. And please unmute your button, Minerva.
Myself and this mute button is, we're having a good time. Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah.
and my thought is that basically there needs to be a real understanding between Pacifica and their local the local station, because what I get is there's a fight, but between people trying to figure out who's on first, who's in charge. And once those goals are worked out, once that information is worked out, then you put forward what the goal is and you work towards that. I just see that right now it's a battle as to say who's in charge and who has a voice.
Thank you very much, Minerva. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, you have 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I thought Art really nailed it. And the little I know about the issue, I mean, I see the LSB role as helping all the talent that's at the station and in the community sort of articulate, what the station wants to be and where it's going, and make that message very clear to the parent. And then also, just playing the role of sort of blocking a little bit and giving the station more space to grow, because as Max said, it has to be hyper local. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And next we have Sarah. Sarah, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody else said. In addition, though, I had made some notes about this, and I think we ought to solidify the network reasons for existing. As I've read some things that were published out and about the comments and proposals and that sort of thing, it looked like there's a lot of confusion about why we exist and what we're trying to do. So we need to solidify our raison d'etre and revisit the founding purposes and intentions.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I want to thank the candidates for your excellent debate etiquette and keeping on time. Makes my job very easy. All right, next we move on to topic number 2. And Ayana, this is your topic to start. What do you think is the most serious problem needing the most immediate attention at WPFW and Pacifica? What solutions do you propose for this problem? You have 2 minutes.
Yes. From what I've been reading from the emails and everything in the news, I feel like at some sort of level, grown people are being very childish about things. I believe that people are not listening to each other. Like someone said earlier, people are more worried about being right personally than being right for the station or what's best for the station. So I think we just need to look at rebuilding from the ground up. There needs to be a national town hall where people can actually kind of duke it out and get to what the real issue is, because if we can't get past people's egos, then the radio station is doomed to fail. And also, I feel like there needs to be a available open door for people of all, just for instance, democratic positions. I mean, oh Lord, positions of left wing or right wing, whether it comes down to voting rights or any social justice issues. We need to have a dialogue about those issues too. And it just needs to be a restarting and a refreshing of everything from the ground up.
Thank you, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 30 seconds to provide comments.
From a listener's point of view, I just think that PFW needs to market itself. That's been my theory for a long, long time. It's such great content, but you just have to get a bigger cume to let more people know about it. And I think that will have multiple effects in terms of raising revenue and raising awareness of this treasure we have in our community.
Thank you very much, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 30 seconds to provide comments.
All right, and I'm gonna go back to my comment that I made with the first question. I still see that WPFW, Pacifica, and the other locations, we're looking at who's on first, who's right, instead of everybody coming together to talk about what is the mission and how do we go about staying in line with that mission. And I believe that you need to hear both sides of what's going on, but after that, we should be able to agree to disagree.
Thank you, Minerva. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, you have 30 seconds.
Thanks. I mean, as I understand it, the main issue is the bottom line and resourcing the station. And so you need staff to do the things that the station needs to do to grow. You need a mobilized volunteer corps. And to get there, I think back to Sarah's point, I think that the station does need to sort of better define its identity and its direction, which of course, you know, in the spirit of the station would be a sort of democratic process. Thanks.
Thank you, Luke. Next up, we have Sarah. Sarah, you have 30 seconds.
I agree with the other speakers. And I also want to add that if I look out at Pacifica, I see a lot of financial instability out there amongst the stations, but I also see a lot of confusion and duress, like the suggested sales of capital property and stations. That scares me when people start talking about divesting themselves of treasure that's been accumulated over a long period of time.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And to wrap up topic number 2, we have Art. Art, you have 30 seconds.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with most what everyone's saying. Marketing is key. Consistent messaging from Pacifica would be extremely helpful. Unless you've done your homework or your radio insider, you're not going to know much about what the issues are, why there's this debt. And I think honestly, we all need more. Hear more from independent radio. That voice is extremely necessary in this day and age. And lastly, fundraising, development. There's a lot of crushing debt. How are we going to fix that problem?
Thank you, Art. And next, we're going to move to our next topic. Max, this is your topic to start. The question is, in your opinion, what is the most important role or responsibility that the local station board has? And how should roles or responsibilities be modified to improve the function of the local station board? You have 2 minutes, Max.
Okay, I think if I got this correctly, the role of the local board is to ascertain the needs of the audience and then deliver upon those expectations. And I mean, radio is not that complicated. You find out what people want, you give it to them, and then you tell them that you're giving it to them. And you just do this consistently, and ratings improve, revenue improves. Of course, you have to have people do that. Is my understanding that most of the people associated with WPFW, and I can only look at it from a local level, are volunteers. So you have to have a very motivated group of people to do that, and you have to have leadership to keep them keep them focused and keeps them on message. So I think those things are what you need to do to. I think that's the role of the local board, is to do everything it can to improve the output of the station.
Great, thank you, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 30 seconds to provide comments.
Okay, and I agree with the comments that Max has made. I also see that one key role for the local station board is to look at ways to fundraise to help WPFW meet its goals and objectives. And it does talk about WPF, that the local station board looks at the budget. And I think that's important as well, because if you don't know how money's being managed, even if it's a little bit of money, then how can you help figure out ways to generate additional funds?
Thank you, Minerva. And just a quick reiteration of this question. So this question is in 2 parts. What do you think is the most important role or responsibility of the local station board? And how should any roles or responsibilities be modified to improve the function of the local station board? So you can provide comments on one, the other, or both. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, you have 30 seconds for comments.
Hey, thanks. I think the most important role is to represent the listeners of the station and make sure that the money, the time, the funds that they send to the station are managed properly. So I think the oversight of the budget is a very important role, as well as the relationship that the LSB has with the general manager. And then lastly, I'd say playing that function of facilitating the relationship with the national parent so that it's as productive as possible.
Thank you, Luke. Next up, we have Sarah. Sarah, you have 30 seconds.
I agree with the preceding speakers, but I'd like to add that the board is an executive body of the station. Its roles are both up and down the conglomeration of stations. Up, it should be highly in sync with Pacifica, providing a never-ending perspective of our local needs and achievements, never-ending praise and criticism for the good and bad decisions that the overbody makes. Down, we should provide guidance, support for management, and a healthy realm where talent and staff can grow.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Art. Art, you have 30 seconds.
Can't say it much better than how Sarah and Luke said it, but the LSB serves as a means to help management do its job, to be a conduit for the voice of the community and the Pacifica Foundation, and make sure the local needs are being met. Boards are tough. I've seen boards flounder around for many years under less than strong leadership. So participation rates need to be high. People really need to be involved. They need to serve, and honestly, I think they all should give and give generously. One thing I would ask and ask the board to contemplate is there a giving requirement for the members of the board?
Thank you, Art. And to wrap up this topic, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. I agree with mainly everybody pretty much said the same thing, but I think that one of the most important roles is definitely the financial sector, and also being more active with the listeners, because the listeners can, explain what they want to hear, what they feel like the station should be doing. It is a community radio station, so just listen to the people more.
Thank you, Ayana. We wrap up this topic and we move on to our next topic. Minerva, you're going to start with this topic. I'm going to read the statement and question. It has been challenging to maintain accurate membership lists of both listener and staff members at all stations. What is your understanding of this problem, and how do you propose to resolve this? Minerva, you have 2 minutes.
All right. First, I would like to say I can understand that, yes, it would be hard to maintain a membership list, because the one thing that I feel is happening is even when I call in to donate, they have old information. So the very first thing is to set up a good database with the membership and the information. And that would be done by using, we have plenty of software that can do this, Excel, others, and we have people that would be willing to volunteer and put this together. So we need to make use of the people who say, I want to come in and help, tell me and show me what you need me to do. And this way, even on a national level, we have a good database of all the members. And I would have to say someone had a good database, because the last bylaws piece that we went through, everybody got emails from the group. So somebody has a good way of maintaining a database, and we need to work to see that Pacifica, WPFW, and all the other stations have the same. Now, the other part to this, again, is, and I mentioned this as I spoke earlier, there are volunteers that will come in and would be happy to help put this together. We just have to have individuals that are working in these areas right now willing to share the data and allow us to assist. So with that being said, I think WPFW could start before the end of this year building a real database, because I do know during the fund drives, you ask people if they'll donate for a year, and their year comes up and they never get a call, they never get an email or anything to ask them to re-up in doing this. So if we had a good database, we could move forward and do something along those lines. So that's my response.
Thank you very much, Minerva. Next up, we have Luke to provide comments. Luke, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I thought Minerva made really great points. I mean, I would just add that as a listener, I think the station makes it too hard to jump from being a listener to a member. And, I've been struck both as a volunteer and as someone who's given money to the station, how difficult that is. And, to the extent we could sort of like use some of the new technologies out there that, for example, political campaigns are using, to make our fundraising easier and a little bit more sort of like instantaneous for our listeners. I think that would help.
Thank you, Luke. Next up, we have Sarah. Sarah, you have 30 seconds.
I agree 100% with everything that's been said so far, the database. But I think it's essential that we have, through the logging of all pledges, small or large, everybody should contribute something. And that includes all staff and everybody. And that automatically gives that database a chance to populate itself. It's logged in, it's very simple software. It's been, like was mentioned, it's been created, it's out on the market.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
Next up, we have Art. Art, you have 30 seconds.
Do we even know what a member is and how we define it? Does it come from being a donor? Does it come from being a volunteer? Our staff members, members as well. So I think there needs to be some clarity on what defines a membership first of all. And second of all, data needs to be handled. There are dozens of good, cheap databases out there that can be used to better track, better communicate the messaging to the donors on a consistent basis.
Thank you, Art. Next up, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 30 seconds.
I totally agree with Minerva. This goes back to what I was saying earlier, that I think Pacifica and WPFW needs to just start over from the ground up, especially with the keeping track of the databases. If you can't keep track of the donors, how do you expect people to give? So let's start there and then work on, bettering the situation.
Thank you, Ayana. And to wrap up this topic, we have Max. Max, you have 30 seconds.
Okay. There's a software out there called MailChimp that a lot of organizations use. It allows them to segment listeners or whatever into groups by varying degrees. I think that's something that we could look into. I think also we should probably, this is a very well-educated city, so we should also look into developing a relationship with one of the schools, get one of the marketing students to be a part of this effort and engage on a consistent basis.
Thank you, Max. Wonderful. So now we're going to move on to our next topic. Luke, this is your topic to start. I'm going to read the questions and then allow you 2 minutes. What is your vision for the future of your station and Pacifica as a whole? What types of changes do you see necessary at WPFW and Pacifica in the near future? Luke, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So like I said, when I moved to DC in 2015, the station really kind of anchored me in DC and made me feel like I was home. Like I had, it was really Brother Ah, actually. The Brother Ah show got me hooked. And then there were several weekend shows that got me hooked. The programming is really solid right now, but I do think there's room for improvement. And I think that goes back to this question about the station's identity and its direction. So I sometimes get the sense when I listen to the station that it's reluctant to open itself up to a city that's really changed a lot in the last several decades and continues to change and really embrace more of the people who live in the DMV. And as a sort of corollary to that, and I hate to focus on the programming because I know the problems are much bigger than that, but I think that the extent to which the station can actually sort of get new voices in there and let more members of the community actually be on the station talking about creative things they're doing, initiatives they've undertaken, highlighting local artists and writers and activists and getting them in the station and talking directly to our listeners. I think the real value that the station has lies in its proximity to the people and to its listeners. And whenever there's a gap or there's distance, I think that's when the programming gets a little bit stale and we don't really deliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. Next, we have Sarah to provide comments. Sarah, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, tough to mute. Okay, we have to stay fiscally stable and show true cause for our raison d'etre. And the reason why I say that is because the RF frequencies we hold are worth millions of dollars, and we are subject to nefarious, selfish, and infiltrating actors who would rather see a great network die and reap the rewards. We often take stances that are critical and injurious to powerful, wealthy, and then skilled entities, and we have to be careful.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Next up, we have Art. Art, you have 30 seconds.
We need to keep this voice viable as a voice for alternative views of opinions and actions. Independence is key. It must be maintained. So I think that's something we must continue to do. We can't go any further than what some of the other folks have already said, because they're all spot on. I think any changes necessary for the future to help it grow. Do we have a full-time or part-time development professional? Do we have a full-time or part-time communications person that can help us with our messaging?
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Art. Next up, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. WPFW is so politically vital for Washington, D.C. and the BIPOC community, Black and Indigenous people of color. And I think that I would love to see, even the program is wonderful, but like I said, I think there should be a bigger focus on BIPOC individuals, as well as be more fiscally responsible, like Sarah was saying.
Thank you, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, WPFW, it's important for it to continue to stay independent. It is the independent voice for the city. It's also important for the station to make sure that it is delivering on what the expectations are for the audience. So some kind of research needs to be done to make sure that those points of views are being addressed.
Thank you, Max. And finally, to wrap up this topic, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, and I do agree with all that has been said. I also feel that at some point in time, and maybe this would be something that's done yearly, there has to be like a strategic planning meeting to look at what is currently being done at WPFW and Pacifica, and get a feel for what's going on in the community and the area to make sure we're still addressing the things that we should be addressing as we want to stay viable with our message to the community.
Thank you very much, Minerva. All right, we're moving on to our last topic before we move into the question segment of today's debate. So this final topic, Sarah, you will start with this topic. I'm going to read the questions and you will have 2 minutes to respond. The questions are, what are the strengths and weaknesses of WPFW's programming? And should local station board members be involved in determining programming? Sarah, you have 2 minutes.
Really tough question because it's so subjective. The programming mix is traditional and it is what we do. It's really good and people really enjoy it. It can be improved, but what does the potential audience know? Do we know that the potential audience for it is there? So what I'm saying there is that we have a great programming cadre, a set of programming, and it's wonderful. It covers a lot of different areas that other people don't touch, and it's very instrumental in bringing out voices that would never be heard and the nuances of voices that would never be heard. What can we do to improve that? I think we can make it a little more disciplined, but I don't think that that's in any way touching the content. It's just that sometimes we hear things in the programming that could be is duplicitous. So we remind people that, you know, let's move on, do some research and keep going on these very, very important topics. I think the most incredible thing I heard the other day was a Native American woman talking about a protest they had against an oil line. And I immediately assumed that was just a ongoing protest. But when she started to talk and the person that was moderating the show did such a great job in allowing her to bring out all the nuances of what was going on, I began to see a totally different issue For example, the police in that particular case, incentives was overtime. There was a disparity of the kinds of police. So the talent and professionalism of the police, totally different perspective when she was done talking. That's what we need to retain here.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Next up, we have Art to provide comments. Art, you have 30 seconds.
The consistency of the network feeds are great. It's nice that you can tune in to certain shows every day. The Saturday and Sunday programs are stellar, and the reason I've been a listener and a donor. The diversity of the musical programming is turning on the new music genres. Love all that. Love the DJ's expertise. As far as the talk, I think some of it's great, and some of it I honestly don't really tune into. I think it could be better structured and perhaps better moderated. The LSB should be kept informed of programming changes, and ratings drive a lot of that.
Thank you, Art. Next up, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, I think one of the greatest strengths of WPFW is definitely the programming. That couldn't get any better if you ask me. And yes, the community should definitely be involved, because we're the ones listening, we're the ones contributing, and we're the ones that matter, because if it's not for the listeners, there is no radio station.
Thank you, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, I agree with what everyone has said. Once again, you got to find out what the people are expecting and give it to them, and then tell them you're giving it to them. So, you know, it's such great and diverse content, but if you're only preaching to the choir, you're only preaching to the choir. So you got to let people know that it's there, and you got to do that consistently. You have to engage, you have to market, and just let people know that it exists.
Thank you, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, and yes, the strength of the station is its programming, because without the programming and the issues being raised, people would not be listening to the station. I do see that there are areas, just as Sarah brought up, there are different areas that are not as mentioned and spoken about as much as they should be. So maybe just taking a moment, like I said, some strategic planning, some reaching out to the community to see what should be heard.
Minerva, thank you very much, Minerva. And to wrap up this last topic, we have Luke. Luke, you have 30 seconds.
Thanks. I agree that the strength is the programming. Going back to Brother Ah, just like the storytelling, the way he could tell like international stories, but really root them in DC and in DC's history was an amazing thing to me. But also the strength I think the station has is like this huge part of the DC population that loves the station and has a history with it, including all the people who are on the screen today. And so that's its most important asset, in my opinion. As far as the programming, though, I don't think the LSB should have a very active role.
Thank you very much, Luke. And that wraps up our topic segment. So we're now going to move into the segment where we have selected questions from a list submitted by listener members. And each candidate will then have 1 minute to respond. For this segment, we'll take as many questions as time allows. The order of which we will go was randomly selected. So that random order, which I will read through at each question, is Art, Ayana, Max, Minerva, Luke, and Sarah. So I'm going to read our first question. Our first question is, do you think that those who vote and run in delegate elections and referendums are representative of WPFW's listener sponsor population? And how can we increase participation from the community WPFW serves? So the first question to kick us off, Art, you have 1 minute to respond. Please remember to unmute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure who the audience is. I've never really seen how the ratings are compromised or affected. what the audience is made up of, what the membership is made of. So what their role is in, I'm sorry, what the question again was?
The question is, do you think that those who vote and run in delegate elections and referendums are representative of WPFW's listener sponsor population? And how can we increase participation from the community WPFW serves?
I think the best way to increase our participation and involvement is to be better at consistently managing our donors and our members, be more consistent with the ways we communicate to them, how often we do that, and what the messages is. It's a fine line. You have to walk between not enough info and too much info. Perhaps some of the DJs can also do a little bit better job of encouraging listener involvement. I think it all starts with that. What other grassroots ways can we come up with to encourage more involvement? Those are things we should probably look into as well.
Thank you, Art. Next up, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. From the way the first portion of that question sounded, I would have to say no to it. And it just seems like somewhere along the lines, there will be some conflict of interest. You know, like on certain boards, people are not allowed to vote for in certain elections because of that conflict. So that's where I'm coming from with that. And as far as more listener participation, maybe we can have a call-in hour, or definitely more canvassing of the community and marketing and from the suites to the streets type of attitude. Get out there and get people to listen to what the station is trying to say.
Thank you very much, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 1 minute. Please unmute.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Do you think that those who vote and run in delegate elections and referendums are representative of WPFW's listener sponsor population? And how can we increase participation from the community WPFW serves?
Okay, so the first part of that question, and I'm assuming you're talking about internal elections. Yeah, they are part of the listening population. That's why they're involved with the station. Second part of that question is, what was it? How do you what?
How can we increase participation from the community WPFW serves?
Oh, okay, once again, it goes back to listener engagement. So there's, all kind of mechanisms available, as Art mentioned, to engage with the community, and you have to do that on a consistent basis. You have to bring them in and the net result of that will be higher listening and more revenue opportunities. So you have to use all of those different mechanisms that are available, whether it's email or whether it's social media. You just have to do that consistently and draw them in and make them a part of it, give them ownership.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 1 minute.
Okay, here I see that WPFW would need to begin to do things as mentioned, reach out to the community. I think the town halls are good, but impromptu, just broadcasting from the different communities, putting together an electronic one-page newsletter that talks about what WPFW is doing, what's upcoming, things that they can get involved in. I think it's real important because the community needs to hear from you. They don't just need to hear from you when it's time to do a fund drive. When you talk about town halls, and this would not be just looking to the programmers to share that. This would be looking for WPFW, even if it's like a newsletter. I mentioned this in my write-up. Plenty of people go to the metro each day. Maybe there's a day that we say it's a WPFW day at the Metro, and we choose certain Metro stations to go broadcast from or hand out information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minerva. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, you have 1 minute.
Thanks. The first part of the question I can't really speak to because I don't have solid information on what the listenership actually is, or in fact, the candidate pool for the local elections. But on the second question, I'd say that that phrase listener engagement is critical, and really, I mean, in my opinion, a community radio station should have just an open door, and almost everybody in the community should have either been on that radio station or has a kid or has some sort of relative who's been on the radio station. And I think the extent that we think of listeners not just as passive listeners who consume the broadcast, and more or a part, we should be thinking of them as part of the creation of the broadcast and the station's content. And I think it'll make the content sort of more engaging for our audience.
Thank you very much, Luke. To wrap up this question, we have Sarah coming next. Sarah, you have 1 minute.
Okay, this reminds me of the old saying from George Washington Carver about cast down your buckets. And it was a sailing ship that was caught in the doldrums, and they found out that they were in the effluvium of the Amazon River. So there was fresh water all around them, but they had nothing to drink. And that's our particular situation here. I think it depends on whether you're paying attention to the statements and issues raised by the candidates, staff members, talent, and people that opine during promos and offsites. So that's all to say that we are sitting in the middle of a lot of information that we're not gathering. We're not calling that together. That's before we go out and look for additional information and try to find stuff that's going on. So first, we need to cast down our buckets, look at what we've got, what we can listen to, what it is in the low-hanging fruit that's right available to us right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We're going to move to our second question, and the candidates will respond in the random order as we just did. And of course, I will call your name when it's your turn. The second question is, when members make donations, they often are unaware of their membership rights. Do you think this is a problem, and what do you propose to remedy it? Art, we have you up first. You have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. Again, in my uneducated opinion on station communication management, this boils down to consistent messaging to our donors. What do you tell your donors after they make a donation besides thank you? Are you sending them quarterly updates on station issues, programming, upcoming noteworthy interviews, things of that nature? Are you telling them about the upcoming quarterly fundraising drives? Are you asking them to get involved? Are you celebrating notable dates? So the station wants to recognize and wants folks to tune into. Special events, what's the role for that? How does a donor know about them unless it's mentioned on a program that a donor happens to be listening to? Are you telling them more about other ways they can get involved? Are you informing them of their rights and expectations as a member, which includes voting? If it were up to me, I would suggest a standard way to a standard plan to recognize and thank and further inform and further solicit the members. It's not hard. It just takes a dedicated plan and staff or volunteers to manage the process.
Thank you very much, Art. Next, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with you, Art. And yes, I do think it is a problem. Me personally, myself, I didn't realize that I was even a member until I went onto the radio station website itself and saw that, because I was a donor. So I feel like, more educational tools, packets, brochures, or the moment somebody sends the radio station some money, they should be made aware of their rights as a membership, because we won't know who all there can contribute in what ways if they don't know. You got to have the information.
Thank you very much, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Once again, engagement, you have to let people know. I mean, I'm a donor. I don't really know what that means. I just contribute to the station because I believe in the station and I like the station. But I rarely get anything from the station. So once again, you have to let people know. You have to engage with them. You have to use these mechanisms for reaching out and interacting with this audience. I mean, they are available. You just have to have the people to do that consistently. You know, that's just this message is on repeat. Engagement, marketing begets ratings, begets revenue.
Thank you very much, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 1 minute.
Okay, and what I see is when you get the email that you get that says thank you for donating, that should also include information about you are actually a member now. These are some of the programs we have. These are some of the opportunities that you have to also work with the radio station if you choose to do so. And so these are things that I think need to be included, and it's not that hard to do. This can be done, excuse me, just a second, go. Sorry, but you know, this can be done, and the radio station should be doing it, because I think about it, once you donate, if you do it online, you get an email that says thank you. So we need to be using the tools that we have to let people know we're excited about having them. We want their support. And then also that we want them to get active and be part of the WPFW family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minerva. And I did take note of your comment in the chat, Ayana. Thank you. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, as others have said, I mean, I think your membership rights are probably not communicated very well to donors, but on the other hand, are probably not the most attractive aspect of donating. I mean, like the ability to vote in an election like this is nice, but I don't think it's really all that motivating. I think far more motivating is one, feeling appreciated that you donated, of course, but also that that you're part of a family or community of people who support and believe in the station. And I think that's, again, as others have said, I'm largely repeating what others have said, but that comes with communication, that comes with events, that comes with invitations to participate in events or volunteer opportunities that are of particular interest to that donor that we have identified through the process of accepting their donation. So, and I think that's a relatively easy change to make.
Great. Thank you, Luke. To wrap up this question, we have Sarah going next. Sarah, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I agree with everything everybody said so far, but I'd like to add the following. I think that membership rights and rules and regulations, bylaws, the vision, mission statements should be easily accessible on the website. And if it's not available, if you're not the kind of person who goes on the website, people don't. In writing, by mail-in request, or in person for that response at offsites. Documents should be complemented by financial statements online as much as possible and major meeting minutes. So I think altogether that website should be a locus where you go to, one, log on to hear the radio station, but also should be easily accessible. All these documents should be easily accessible on that website.
Thank you, Sarah. Finally, we're going to move into our last question for today's segment before we move into candidate closing statements. So thank you for your concise and thoughtful responses. This last question is, what is your understanding of the role that unpaid staff play at WPFW? How do you think they should be represented? And Art, we have you first. You have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. This seems to be more of a political issue. I'm not quite entirely familiar with, so I'm not sure how to best answer it. Unpaid staff, which I assume means DJs and other on-air personalities, as well as the many volunteers who help out with day-to-day operations. These people play an extremely valuable role and are likely the lifeblood of the station. So how are they represented now? What are their issues and concerns, and is their voice being heard? It seems to me that the role is very, very important. However, like many volunteers at nonprofits, management must strike a delicate balance between meeting their needs and not having their influence overtake the station's mission and objective. And other organizations I've worked with, volunteers have a leadership board or an individual that meets with them on a regular basis, encourages their participation, and acts as a sounding board for their grievances. Then they go and talk to the management and hopefully address their issues. Is this how things are working here? Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, but that's just all part of the process.
Thank you very much, Art. Next, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I'm assuming unpaid staff will be anybody from the local janitor to the lights, the engineers, DJ and everything like that. They are very vital, and I feel like if they are not being paid, the least the station can do is offer some sort of maybe awards banquet or something to show them appreciation. I do know that for a show that I donate to, I try to send a little extra for the engineers, but that's because the people who program that show are specifically kind to their own engineers. So I think they deserve some kind of recognition, if not monetary, then award.
Thank you very much, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I don't really know the financial structure of the station and who gets paid and who doesn't, but I believe that the personalities are unpaid, and I've been listening to the station for 21 years. For anyone who's been coming to that station to do a 2-hour show for free for 21 years, it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of commitment. So yeah, I think they're very important.
Thank you very much, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 1 minute.
Okay, and for the unpaid staff, I do not know what WPFW is currently doing, and that would be something to review. I do feel like when it comes to the programmers, I know that they volunteer their time to come to the station to do what they do, but also this is how people hear about them, and it allows them to go out in the community and be booked to do certain activities. And because if it wasn't for WPFW, a lot of those individuals would not have a voice in the community, and people wouldn't know where to go to get the best DJs or best people to come and do something for their meeting or program they were having. So there's things there that I think need to be negotiated and talked about in terms of how these people are treated. And I would definitely say there needs to be some type celebration for them at the end of each year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minerva. Next, we have Luke. Luke, you have 1 minute.
Thanks. Yeah, my understanding is there are actually very few people on the station's payroll, and the bulk of the work that goes into making the station run is done by unpaid staff. So they obviously need some recognition, and they need to know that they're appreciated. And I think they get that in some sense. I mean, nobody would do this unless they loved what they were doing and they felt that sort of sense of appreciation from the community. But also, I think it's only reasonable that they would have a voice also in internal matters. And I don't know how they're organized now, but I would think that they should be organized in some fashion so that they can interact with the board, interact with management in a way that's structured and coherent.
Thank you very much, Luke. Next, we have Sarah. Sarah, you have 1 minute.
Okay, everybody said exactly what I was thinking, but anyway, so what I have to add is that currently unpaid staff are probably either reporting to somebody, be it talent or management. So their common interests, the health, safety, welfare, and recognition cannot be ignored or exaggerated for that matter. Health, safety, and welfare are hard and fast subjects that are negotiable in the realms of the capabilities of the station, but recognition falls under the realm of motivators and satisficers, which is a Hertzberg thing. And it depends on the individual's value systems. So maybe things like inconsequential things to us might be like maybe just to get a programmer to host a 30-minute program once in a while might be very, very important to them, or not. Or find out what the value systems are for the people involved, and use those as prizes and awards.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Right on time. Finally, we move to our last segment of today's program, and that is our candidate closing statements. So each candidate will have 1 minute to make your closing statement. And again, it is in the same random order. So we will start with Art. Art, please provide your closing statements in 1 minute.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful experience, and I really appreciate the expertise that everyone here brings to WPFW. My name again is Arthur Hyland, 40 years in nonprofit development and management, radio listener and dedicated fan of the station. Love the role of independent radio. It's so very important in this day and age, and its mission needs to continue. It needs some help though. It needs some better fundraising. It needs some better communication, and I think these are some things I can help it with. I'm not necessarily a radio insider, but I can appreciate the role Pacifica and its stations face, and I want to help it continue to meet my needs, to meet your needs, to meet the needs of the community now and well into the future. Again, it's a very, very important issue. It needs our help, and we're ready, willing, and able to do what I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Art. Next up, we have Ayana. Ayana, you have 1 minute.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be here. All of you guys are great. I feel like any one of us will do a great job. I'm just here for the community. I'm here for the people. I'm all about the people. And I just want to get a chance to, get our voices heard and get the station's needs met. And I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to give my opinions about things.
Thank you very much, Ayana. Next up, we have Max. Max, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. My name is Max Myrick. I am a 44-year radio programming veteran. I have built and managed radio stations across the country, and I'm a big fan of WPFW. I have been for 21 years. I'm also a contributor to or a donor, and I always want to nothing but the best for the radio station. And I'd like to see it continue to thrive and continue to grow. It's an important and independent voice for our city. And I'd like to use my experience to help in that endeavor. So thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Max. Next up, we have Minerva. Minerva, you have 1 minute.
Yes, I want to say thank you for allowing me to take part in this candidates forum, and would like to say that I have a strong commitment to WPFW. And as was stated, any individual that's selected to be on the board, I applaud them. I hope I'm part of that group, because I don't claim to have all the answers, but I do have ideas and a strong desire to assist where I can. WPFW can increase its profile in the community. The people will support the station. They just have to know more about it and know that WPFW is willing to open up and let them take part. And I look forward to continuing my support of WPFW and hoping that I'll be one of the ones selected to be part of the local station board. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Minerva. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, you have 1 minute.
Hey, thanks. I've said a couple of times how much the station has meant to me when I moved to Washington 6 years ago. And my motivation for running for the local board was just to do what I can to make sure that the station continues to thrive. And just being on screen with all of you, I no longer have any concerns about that. I mean, and I feel like this is, again, I've said it earlier today, but the asset that this station has, is a population of people who believe in it, who love it, and are willing to give their time and their resources to making sure that it continues to be there and reflect the community that it serves. And so if I have the opportunity to help in that respect, I'd welcome the chance. And then I just wanted to thank Clara for helping me navigate this whole process, because it was not easy. So kudos to everyone who was able to do it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. Next up, we have Sarah. Sarah, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I've been a longtime listener and a contributor, and I don't think we can lose this crown jewel of a different, that allows so many different voices and opinions that you wouldn't hear otherwise. I'd like to think that I'm a great winner, and I'm even a better loser. So please think about the talent that has been applied to the that has applied for this board, and select a team that represents the best mix of talent, integrity, future vision, and mission. Get these some energy and a sense of humor on the board. People must argue but with love, must agree but with reservation, must compromise but just enough, and must face all ugly and make the hard decisions. All you can do is the very best you can. There isn't anything else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you all the candidates for making the time during your Saturday afternoon. And thank you all of our organizers for making this such a seamless experience today. And thank you for listening to WPFW's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections. My name is Yilin Zhang, trustee with the League of Women Voters of the District of Columbia, the moderator for the program. And we were joined by Arthur Hyland, Ayana Craig, Maxx Myrick, Minerva Sanders, Luke Reynolds, and Sarah E. Brown. Please visit elections.pacifica.org for all questions and to file a ballot request form. Also, please make sure to cast your ballot before 11:59 p.m. EST on October 15th, 2021. Thank you very much.